So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bishwa Gupta, and I work for JP Morgan Chase. And I have a couple of responsibilities. First of all, being making sure that we infuse AI and machine learning algorithms throughout end-to-end life cycle of whether it's a problem in markets, securities, payments, everywhere. So looking at machine learning technology much more horizontally. Apart from that, I also oversee the makeup of the cloud platform on which we instate all of these microservices. Now, as I quickly mentioned earlier, the crux of this talk is why are companies lagging behind when it comes to seeing the ROI of the AI investment? And are there certain tips and tricks that we could possibly look into to accelerate the ROI? So what you see on this slide here is there is a lot of excitement on AI in general, machine learning in specific, and even if you go a little bit more deeper, generative AI. So the graph here shows that when you analyze the analyst calls from a lot of financial services company, increasingly the discussion of AI and machine learning topics are increasing, right? So if we analyze that data a bit more, you will see 3.7 mentions of AI, machine learning type topics versus 1.8 times mention of the same information, let's say, same time last quarter, right? So there's a lot of excitement, but there's also public data out there that says that only 10% of the companies obtain significant financial benefits via the investment that they have put in for AI in general. And why is that the case? And that's because most of the companies are in what we fondly call the perpetual POC land. Now, this terrain is a little bit rough, right? So you start with a lot of enthusiasm. You create lots of machine learning tooling. But at the same time, when you take a deep dive on this problem, you will see most of the time you aren't able to integrate with the existing source systems that you have. Your data quality might be poor, or you might haven't thought the product throughout its entire life cycle. So as you move from experimentation to production, you need to think of it a little bit more deeply. If you don't do that, you will be locked in the landscape of the perpetual POC. And something that I mentioned to a lot of the executives in our firm is vision without execution becomes a stack of PowerPoint slides, and execution without vision would be technical death, right? So, and for all of us who want to get out the ROI, you need to make sure there is a balance between the two items there. Now, there are many challenges as you move from the POC land to the production land. When you talk to an end user, one of the problem they will come up with is, hey, do I need to go and learn yet another application, right? So if you think about this problem a bit more, we fail to integrate the machine learning on an end-to-end workflow. Users have to change from one application to the other, right? So an easier trick, so to speak, is meet the users where they are comfortable with. If you go and ask them that, look, I have built a ChatGPT question answering system that stands alone from their 20,000 things that they do on a day-to-day basis, you will never have adoption. So adoption is the only metric, it's not whether your F1 score of your machine learning model is 0.99. That's not the problem here. It's about adoption. It's about making sure that we are creating machine learning models and products that have adoption. Second thing, AI is not a silver bullet. It's not a cream that you apply on your problem and voila, everything disappears. You need human in the loop. You need to have that human feedback. Just like you and I make mistakes, the algorithms make mistake. What do? We get feedback and make sure that we don't make that mistake yet again. Third thing, there's a lot of, again, excitement in the machine learning world with large models, etc. But you need to be pretty clear in, or the algorithm, one of the algorithm needs to be pretty clear and pretty specific, surgical in what it does. So there needs to be specificity in the models, but at the same time, you need to build a web of, let's say, microservices, machine learning microservices, wherein the whole becomes much larger than the sum of its parts. And finally, it's not about insights. It's about what do you do with the insights. It's not about applying computer vision on a document and extracting information out of it. It's not about NLP being applied on a piece of imagery or the text. It's about what do you do after that. So it's more about decision making. So computer vision, NLP, etc., must work hand in glove with algorithms, which all of you are familiar with, things like sequential decision making. So how do we, as a company, we move trillions of dollars per day. We have a large workforce. How do we look after, or how do we set ourselves for success? Digital transformation is less about technology, more about people. So we have a hub and spoke model wherein there are generalists in the hub who would bring in lots of, let's say, expertise in the latest and greatest that's happening in the cloud platform. You have specific machine learning scientists who would have specific knowledge in the business, much closer to the business problems, with also technical skill sets that are specific. They might have an expertise in computer vision or Markov decision processes or what have you. But at the same time, they work hand in glove with the business end users to make this happen. Now, bottom of that slide, you also see delivery, because execution is the key here. So, and execution in a time-fenced manner is the only way to succeed. And therefore, we have this construct and assure that we could deliver in time with something, product that has adoption. Now, as I go further, one of the vision that we have here, which brings in all the four themes that I talked about, meet the users where they are, drive decisions, etc., is the concept of a command center. For those of you who are in London, it's more like being in front of a tube network where you could see the different trains that are moving from left to right, north to south, etc. You can at once see how information is flowing through. Now, the starting point of this command center is very much matchmaking the right task to the right people, right? But let's say I get a task. Now, the vision here is we think of AI more as autonomous agents, so wherein we have n different agents that comes to the aid of the human being to help him or her to do the task. You might have an agent that goes and does named entity extraction and gets information out. You might have another agent that uses some sort of a generative AI and generates a piece of text or answers few questions, etc. So it's about interweaving the algorithm with the human in the loop. The other thing, I think one of the talks earlier mentioned the whole concept of a digital twin. Now, in financial services, it's very important that we could track commodity. So it could be a trade. It could be an email that's floating around, because a lot of our external credibility that we have is also comes out of the customer experience that we can provide. Being able to not only advise the managers on what should they do given a certain circumstances, and being able to automate that process end to end, wherein the AI becomes the maker and the human becomes the checker, is the first step towards the vision that we are working towards in the land of command center. The other thing is, suddenly, let's say, half of my team disappears in, let's say, US. Now, given that you don't have 20 people who were working previously on a piece of problem, how could I do decision making? How could I do impact analysis of the workforce that is going on there? So it's not just about punctuated attacks on the problem using NLP and computer vision, but it's about weaving a story end to end. Because until and unless we can weave the different microservices that we instate day in, day out, we are not going to see much of the ROI that we invest in. And we, believe it or not, we invest not millions, but billions in these teams. One of the example that we have been working towards for the last several months is the specific problem of settlement failures. What you see here is not one algorithm, but multiple algorithms that come into play. So there is an algorithm that can go and predict settlement failure. There is another algorithm that goes and finds out, hey, what should be the solution be to alleviate this problem? Yet another problem exists. Another algorithm exists that enables you to group the trades all together. Now, once you have done all of this sensing and analyzing of the world using, again, computer vision, NLP, and a whole variety of other algorithms, you ask the question, shall I send it to the human or shall I process it straight through? There are many things, depending on the human feedback, you can process straight through. The human doesn't need to look at it. But there are many times where the algorithm is half confident on the action that it's suggesting to the human being. So the human comes in the loop. It is only when human and the algorithms work hand in glove will we be seeing the synergies between the capabilities. We as humans, we are excellent in decision making, counterfactual reasoning, and planning. Take the best of your LLM models. I think one of the speakers earlier mentioned that, yes, it can spit out a lot of interesting and useful things in a matter of seconds, but it still can't do decision making. It still can't plan it. So that's where, bring best of the both worlds to create algorithms, to create framework that solves a particular problem. Now, hopefully, I have been able to give you certain glimpse of, or rather, take it as tips and tricks on how you could possibly think about increasing the ROI, right? It's not about getting a new MLOps platform in your company. It's not about Llama 2 versus Llama 99. It's about what problem are you solving. And can you solve it in a way, first of all, that reduces the cognitive load of the human being? We as humans, we have 20,000 things that we do day to day. We don't want yet another thing that we have to learn. It needs to, or the algorithms have to be at a place where we are situated. We, the end users, are situated. We need to have a single pane of glass, and we could only do that by infusing AI in existing workflows. New workflows would be difficult, adoption would be difficult. So that's the reason we have to meet where the user is. Secondly, to reiterate my point, algorithms make mistakes. We are not there yet in the space of artificial general intelligence. We are in the period of artificial specific intelligence. Yes, maybe 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, we might have AGI, not yet. And until we have that level of automation or algorithms with the mathematical and statistical prowess, we need to have feedback. Third, solve distinct tasks with distinct models. We absolutely have to be cognizant of the fact that larger is always not better, right? So you need to have specific models for specific tasks, but at the same time, you need to build a gestalt of the models that we use. The whole must be, greater than the sum of its parts. And finally, not insights, but decisions. It doesn't help me as a human, as a user, if you bombard me with lots of insights using your different variety of machine learning algorithms. Can you help me take a decision? That's where the proof of adoption, proof of the technical prowess of the framework lies. So with that, I think I'm already over time. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Biswa. I'm going to ask you a question, just a very brief question due to time. Where does governance sit with all of this when you're using all of this incredible decision-making and all of these specific tools that are tailor-purposed? Where do you see the governance aligning with or sitting in your work?
So any algorithm that we work on has to go through a rigorous model governance process. Without that, we don't let loose of any algorithm, regardless of what business value it brings to the table. It becomes more tricky when we look into things like language models, etc., because we are, if I compare it to one of the industry that I worked earlier, self-driving cars, we are possibly at the level 1, level 2 level of automation. So it might take a while to go to level 5, where everything is governed, regulated, etc. All the bells and whistles. I think it'll take much more than.
Thank you so much. Recommend the 5 levels of taxonomy of automation for anyone who's interested. I think the automotive industry was way ahead of its time.
100%.
What will expedite that process is also ISO 42001, which is coming, the AI management standard, which will actually govern and create a lot of guardrails around these tools. But with that, I would like to say thank you again. That was a fantastic presentation.